Anyway, yeah, we've got quite a show. I put together about 75, 76 slides to show you the entirety of this book, Tengu will be shown. Just the illustrations, not the text, obviously. Each one is kind of designed to tell you a little bit more about the world that I've come up with. And it's basically there. You can think of it as like a view from 10,000 feet up. And you drop in on the plot line at these different places, and you go back up to the general sequence of the plot line. In other words, it's an anti-sequential art approach. So it's kind of like an anti-comic. What I want to do is show static pictures because each one of these things is but one picture, like this. Okay? Picture on this side, short story on this side, talking about the things that are going on this side. So there are 30 slices of life or vignettes that I put together to make this storyline. I put it together throughout 2021 and published it in December of 2021, but I can't really say I published it. I just printed it, because if I published it, I'd have an ISBN. I would be an author, not a writer. So that's down the road a little bit, but this is my first attempt at actually doing something, because the original conception of this thing was you go sit down in front of a producer for any form of the story, whether it's going to be a graphic novel, a film, an animation, or whatever, a play, whatever. You have to tell the story first. You can't tell them what you can do. You got to show them what you have done. In certain, I will say that in certain graphic novel situations, they don't want the whole work done. They want to be able to have their staff of editors come along and say, "Oh, well, let's see if we can call in the script doctor, or whatever, to make it the best thing that house could put its mark on." But for now, I just decided to tell this abbreviated form of the story so anybody can have a look at it, assuming I do a second printing. I printed 100 copies in December of 2021. I have managed to sell 93 of them, and I have 7 left, which I'm setting 2 aside, so that's 5 left. And by the end of this year, I should have something printed, of which you, happy few, hello, you happy few have the opportunity to see in print at the end of this year or beginning of next year. And so that you will have a chance to see toward the end of the show, which, as I understand, is commencing right now. Okay, so at this time, I will take away your ability to unmute yourselves, because that's the kind of guy I am. Boom. Ha, you're all silent. My show. Okay, we're going to share the screen. We're going to go to the desktop of me. We're going to go to this, and that is quite a few slides ahead. So we'll go all the way back to the beginning. Okay, are you ready? Anyway, okay.
We're ready.
They're ready. Okay, so this is a project, and I call it a project because it can, like I said before, it can take on a whole bunch of different forms, and it can be several different iterations of the same plot line. So it's a project. It really is a project. This is a mask that I saw in 2005 in the newly rebuilt Young Museum in Golden Gate Park. And this mask captivated me. I said, what kind of civilization would look like this? Or what kind of civilization would produce this? Well, it turns out it's an initiation mask for young boys in the Poro Society, as they call it. Poro Society is an initiation society for when boys become men. And so this is a hornbill mask. And one of the conceits of the storyline is that whatever we make, whatever wouldn't exist if it weren't for human beings, appears in the world of the bird people, which I'll go into in a little bit, if it sits still basically in one place from one new moon to the next. And the time of the new moon is treacherous time for these people because you got human things popping into their world all the time. So they tend to stay at home. Okay. So the time of the full moon is a time for everybody to come together. And, okay, so that's the Poro mask of Liberia. More on this later. Okay, this is the book itself that I started selling in 2021. And it's basically the result of, well, at that time, it would have been 15 years of work from 2005, or 16 years of work, 2005 to 2021. we're now in my 18th year on this project. So I really want to make sure I did it right, because I designed this project to be something I would do after I retired from the trades, which I did for 40 years, longing to be able to do something like this. So to commence, these are the locations throughout San Francisco that I've been trying to get people to get out to. I've taken about 15,000 pictures across the Bay Area, across San Francisco. And I've chosen different sites as being the home of these creatures' gods. And the gods are the same gods as the ones here, you know, the Phoenix, Thunderbird, Thoth, all the bird gods from all over the world, with 12 of them anyway. Each one of these sites comprises a place where one of these bird gods lives. These are the 30 plates, and we're going to be going through each one. And as I say, each one reveals a different aspect of the storyline. Here we have, this is Raven, and I'm probably going to get in some hot water for this, because the only people really who are supposed to tell stories about Raven are the tribes of the Pacific Northwest. But like I say, I've taken all the bird gods from all over the world, so I'm going to probably get in trouble in a lot of different ways, but the Raven is one near and dear to my heart. In this particular scene, he is shown seeing the first evidence that we exist, which is a totem pole. Again, whatever we create, whatever doesn't exist except for humans, appears in their world from one new moon, assuming it's sat still from one new moon to the next. So they see this thing and they say, oh, we got to get out of here. We got to go down, because we know they know about us. So what we got to do is we got to go down to the part of the world where the barrier between our two worlds, between Earth 1 and Earth 2 being the world of the bird people, is the thinnest, and that's the Bay Area. So this is centuries ago. It's like the first totem poles appear, these guys are gone. And so here is the Tengu. And the Tengu is a Japanese mountain goblin whose job it is to pester people. I mean, basically, he's a chaotic creature. If you run into a Tengu out in the wild, you're probably going to have a pretty bad day. But in this particular manifestation, because the girl that he has to reach eventually, so they can see into the future, the girl that he has to reach eventually, named Tamiko, which you'll see in the next slide, is of Japanese descent. And so he takes on something that's going to reach her the most securely that he can come up with. Besides, who can really understand how these people reason, right? The birds. So these are different clans, and the ones that are clothed are called inside clan members, the inside clans. And I know people are going to say outside clans, outside lands. Okay, that did enter my thinking, but it's a reflection of the fact these two worlds are so close. Sounds kind of facile, but it's part of the story. Anyway, moving on. This is Tamiko and her fiance, Kenji. They are both unwitting employees of a consortium known as the Corpus. Now, the Corpus's job, as it sees it, its mission, is to take over the world of the bird people, because no competition, no government, all the stuff everywhere on that planet is exactly where it is on this planet. It's a mirror image of the world. So if they want to look for gold, they know exactly where to go for it. They want oil, forests, whatever. They all know where everything is on that other world. So that's their drive to take this world over. Unfortunately, these two are helping them do that, unbeknownst to them. And that, by the way, is the Beanery, which is my very favorite coffee shop in all of San Francisco. And it's where I wrote a good deal of this story. Next, we have California Academy of Sciences Rooftop. These three are organized in a school of some sort, where the character on the left-hand side, which is the Ibis clan, their responsibility is for all science, magic, knowledge, writing, everything that has to do with trying to understand who we are. We are known to them as the ghosts, because they never see us. They just see all the stuff we make, like the DeYoung Museum. Now, that's Thoth up there in the egg over the tower. Somehow he knew back in 1916 that that was a place to be. So he picked that point out, and he was there on that part of the world, in that world ever since then. The middle is an osprey. They're responsible for healing. On the right is a hawk. That's Kezar. And again, might seem facile, but you can't pass up a name like Kezar, and it sounds like the call of the red-tailed hawk, which is what he is. So there it is. So that's shot from the roof of the California Academy of Sciences, where I worked in 2018, and where I studied a lot of the birds that would become the bird people. Here's Chicago. Here was Chicago. This is how ruthless these Corpus people are. They wipe out Chicago. At the same time, the radiation, they've engineered it somehow to create these mutants 30 miles away on the roof of Fermilab. So Fermilab is another one of their key acquisitions, so they could take over this other world. So they could go there, actually. So, okay, that's that. And then here we see the Taipei Pavilion in Golden Gate Park. Here are the waiters. You can't quite see the ibis on the right, but she, as I said before, is in charge of magic and knowledge and everything. She's the advisor to the mayor, who is Franck, a great blue heron, on the left. In the foreground, you see a transparency of the founder of Golden Gate Park, which is John McLaren. Now, what's that thing on his face? Well, it's a mask. These guys cannot hack the sight of a face without a beak or a bill. So in order to keep from frightening the children, they slap these beaks on all these statues like this one that they find throughout the park. And over here is, there's still Ice Age mammals roaming the land here. So the eagles are the hunters of big game. The prostrate fellow on the right is a goose, and they're the muscle of the story. But, you know, how do you stand up to a short-faced bear? These things stand 12 feet tall, and they are Ice Age mammals. The one on the bottom there is another hapless hawk. So the eagle's job is to turn these things into food. These fine young ladies are, they're fighters. They're one of the mutated people. And what they have been tasked with is being blooded. And what does being blooded mean? Well, you do it with hounds when you get them ready to do a hunt, like in a fox hunt. You want to get them used to the sight of shedding blood. So all these creatures are the hapless prey of these fighters to get them ready to take on the bird world. This is Kezar on the left again. He's getting, if you can see it, there's a mark on his chest that looks like a fork, basically. That is a mark of Garuda. Garuda is marking him to be the successor to the Tengu. And this is done in Stern Grove, down in the southwest corner of the city. Back to the beaks. This is a very important statue to the storyline, because this is where the corpus puts its camera to watch the proceedings over at the bandshell, which this beak is pointed right at. And one early promotion plan that I had was to go throughout the entire Golden Gate Park, or going throughout the entire concourse, the area that includes the museums in San Francisco, in Golden Gate Park, and get out a cherry picker and put these masks on each one of these statues at like 3 o'clock in the morning, right? So, you know, to get people at least interested in what the hell's going on here, or to get myself arrested, or, you know, whatever. Anyway. This is a protest that happens in front of the county fair building. Now, I did 2 previous shows on the Tengu project at this very building. It's San Francisco County Fair building, but you see there's only a B there because these people down here, the guy in the purple suit, is a member of the corpus. You see his abnormally tall head. So his nickname is the Tall Head, right? And that drone of his can fire a mask over protesters' faces that can vary its porosity to allow them to breathe or not breathe. And, you know, if you're blind and you can't hear, and, you know, you can't say anything, and your breathing is getting cut off, you probably stop protesting. There is Tamiko Tsuruyama. And she's sitting in my favorite seat in the beanery, right by the cash register. And that's an ID glass, like Google Glass, that a member of the corpus is using to identify her as Tamiko, who's like a foremost avian geneticist. So Corpus is employing her to develop a vaccine that will counter the bird flu. But what it does is it does it in kind of a reverse fashion. So it targets something between humans and birds. So Tamiko has no idea of this other world. So as far as she knows, she's trying to find something that has a variable spectrum on it to adjust for whatever kind of bird species catches the flu. So, you know, basically she's being offered a ton of money to like wipe out bird flu. So she eagerly accepts. Here is a convocation. Convocations happen every third full moon, and that little set of islands out there on the ocean is called the Farallons. Farallons is the host of one of the goddesses known as Yelafaz, and she is the goddess of the sea clans, which are the pelicans, the penguins, and the gulls, seagulls, the original inhabitants of this area. So that's their convocation at the setting of the full moon. The full moon sets over the ocean, so it's really nice thing to catch. Here is the Tengu in consultation with Thoth. Now, these gods, even though they're sleeping, they can walk in their sleep. They can come down and visit. He's telling the Tengu, look, the two worlds are coming together. They're finding out about us right now. We got to be prepared for this. Over here, here's a convocation. That's the main convocation of the inside clans, the folks that are mobbed up with the Tengu. So they're the ones that all wear clothes and they all have assigned duties and they dress the same way throughout their lives. And this is a mask that they made for the convocation. So they're calling all these people together every 3 months to like have the Tengu address them. And here is Turtle Hill. There's another place. This is the home of the Tengu, where the Tengu resides up that hill, the top of that hill. But this is iconic. I first saw this hilltop on my way out to my high school at St. Ignatius out in the avenues. Every morning when I was going out there from the Mission District to the campus, I'd see this hill, and I swore to myself, like in sophomore in high school, that I was going to actually go up into this hill. And I didn't do it until like 2004, maybe. So, promise fulfilled. This scene here has to do with the Corpus wants all those trees down, and the trees hear about it, and they tell the Tengu. Tengu says, well, that's not happening. I'll turn their trunks to iron. So everything I try to do to take these trees down fails, which is fine by me. I love that hilltop. This is where the owls come in. The owls are telling the doves, look, man, those falcons wiped out your cousins last year, the pigeons, all in one day, and they killed them, they cooked them, and they ate them. So our basic law is we are not food. We don't predate on each other. When we're in this community, we're here to make something bigger. And so we don't try to kill each other, but these guys tried to kill, and these guys did in fact kill. So you got to go down to their present prison and kill them. And while you're at it, come on out of the inside clans to the outside clans. Come on the outside, and we can take this place over eventually. And that's a peregrine falcon up in the top, little murderers. Okay, this is a vanity project that was pointed from the top of Strawberry Island, which is in the middle of Stowe Lake and Golden Gate Park, and is pointed right at the Tengu's home. And what he does with it, we'll find out later, but it's not pretty. Here are two members of the Corpus. This is Aiden and Irina. And notice the extremely long neck on Irina. She's one of the mutants. The fellow on the left is the son of the CEO of this company, the Corpus, whose logo is above. Now you can see it's like a caliper or it's a wrench. And there are two orbs in the center, blanked out negative space orbs, and they represent Earth 1 and Earth 2. And their whole mission is to take this world over, as I said. So what they're doing is they're going to infiltrate the Eagles. And they got this, well, frankly, stupid plan to infiltrate the Eagles with beaks and claws, because they know they'll stand out if they don't have them. This is a situation where that Beethoven bust that I showed you earlier, they move it over there so it disappears in these people's world, because they're going to modify it, put that camera in there and put it back in. So this is Kizar on the left talking to Hada, his tutor, on the right, about, you know, the upcoming proceedings at the convocation. Okay, that mask that I showed you at the beginning, what these guys can do is they can take a copy of anything that we put in their world, one copy only, and they can do whatever they want with it. But if we move that original copy in our world, it disappears in their world, but they get to keep the copy. So they're sure the charge that this thing has. And so Frank insists that Ska like reach into the cage and pull it out and give it to him. Here's Tamiko getting fired by her superior, Irina, and there's a fighter in the background who's going to escort Tamiko out. And as soon as Irina finds out this is the only copy of the work you got, right? And you threw out all the other copies, right? And she goes, yeah. Okay, well, you're fired. You pick up your last paycheck down at the zoo, which they've acquired on top of acquiring Golden Gate Park. So she's all out of it. She goes up to the top of Turtle Hill or Grandview Park, and she sulks, or she tries to figure out what the hell I just did and what happened to me. The Tengu picks up on her being there, and he reaches down and picks up her thought balloon, basically reads it like a newspaper, and brings her into his world and says, you working for me now. You're going to try to kill off all my children? No, you're working for me. You're going to be my eyes and ears in your world. So over here, Irina, sure enough, sends these 3 fighters after her at the zoo. It ends badly. They get destroyed by something. They still are trying to work out what killed them. And so she goes into the wind. She knows they're trying to kill her. So this happens during a dream sequence where she's sent to meet with Thoth to learn what he has to tell her. He gives her the language of the bird people. So now she can communicate with them. The blackbirds are being overseen by those 2 owls sitting up there on that, in our world will be known as a Glenridge Daycare Center, where I did hard time in the 60s as an attendee of the Silver Tree Camp Day Camp in summer of 66. And so the blackbirds are going to try to teach the doves how to get bad. So they're, teach them how martial skills that they passed up being doves. That's my hand, and it's reaching out from what these people call the father house. This is all the environment that they would see in their home, because again, if anything moves, it disappears to them. So no cars, no people, no birds. And this hand is basically reaching out from what they call the father house, which is Mission Dolores, 1791. Everything else grows out from that and basically working its way across the city. Over here, well, yeah, it ends badly. He shakes hands with the leader, who is Skeena of the Bald Eagles. The Eagles, they figure out they're the alphas here. They're running the place. They're not. So basically, Kluik, who's the guy you're shaking hands with, is going, yeah, well, let me get this straight. So you're the bosses from where you come, and you're going to come over here, and we're going to get along on an even basis, right? Wrong. So he basically, grabs him the way eagle talons work and doesn't let go for a while he tells him how things are really going to shape out. You see above the tower that pink egg up there, that's the phoenix. Now the phoenix is on the city flag, and it's symbolic of city building itself back after burning down 6 times. That's before the 06 quake. Moving on, we see Tamiko, and she winds up in that world. As I said, she's in the wind. So she goes over to that world. In the background above her head, you see Horus, who's from the Egyptian culture. Horus, who sees all but says nothing. That's Kezar. Basically, his trainer, one of the eagles, tells him, take this spear and I want you to throw it into that, well, what they call solid air, we call it a window. And he knows that she's there. So he just decides, somehow or other, he's going to get to meet Tamiko. Over here, the virus shows up that Tamiko basically designed a vaccine for, and it shows up there courtesy of Thoth, and kills all the people in this little area here, which is the sky space at the De Young Museum Sculpture Garden. And that's a stand-in for the virus there. And those are those people's last moments in life. This is the Tengu looking at the phoenix, waking up all the gods after 100 years slumber, courtesy of Thoth. Thoth wakes her up. She wakes everybody up. And those rays are going out to each one of the gods. And that's the book. This time capsule thing, this is basically Thoth putting a book into the head of Kezar's tutor, because he knows that Kezar is going to be taking over this little community as soon as the Tengu kicks off. The time capsule in New York City in 1939 had in it a book of record. And that's what that is. The book of record is designed to resuscitate civilization after 5,000 years. That capsule is designed to be open in 6939, and it's still down there. So that's another shot of the sky space in the DeYoung Museum Sculpture Garden. And I even went to the trouble of making a reader's guide so people could figure out what the hell's going on in this story. It's a little brochure, but I have to update it to match up everything I'm doing for this year. Here is an extract from that showing how all the inside clans, the outside clans, and the deities all interrelate. Each god, of which there are 12, which anybody who's in astrology, Kurt, I know you're listening, is a basically it's a prototype, and it's based on the prototype of the astrological signs. So the Tengu at the top there, right there, is going to be Capricorn. The Phoenix over here is going to be Aries. So they have parallels to the actual astrological signs, just to give me something to wrap the plot around. Again, facile. Well, here is the dance that will end the world. These guys, the cranes, when they come to town, everybody goes, oh my God, the cranes are back. The cranes do this stomp up at Crissy Field, which you see in the above picture. And down below, you see San Bruno Mountain, under which lives the largest of the gods, who is the Rook, or the Rock, as they call it, who is as big as he needs to be. And he's sleeping underneath San Bruno Mountain, and he's woken. And as he wakes up, that kicks off a major quake, as happened in 1906. But these guys are the ones behind that. Here is your promo picture for this talk. That is a picture of the Mount Davidson Cross. These guys have no idea who Jesus was or anything about religion, earth religions or anything. They just call it arms open wide because it looks like someone with arms open wide. Above that is the Thunderbird. Thunderbird is responsible for winter weather and also for storms and for meteorology and all that stuff. So that's the guy that gave the Tengu, the same way Garuda gave Kezar the go-ahead to become the steward. He got marked, same way Kezar did. Here's a thing I did for SAWS, Sequential Artist Workshop, located in Gainesville, Florida, without whom very little of this would have been possible. Michael, like myself, and like a lot of you, are attendees of this wonderful institution, which has turned a lot of people, a lot of graphic novel wannabes into graphic novel doobies. And this is the first big assignment I did for them. Basically, it's a junket. It's a mission that these guys got sent on by the Eagles, basically for motives that are not revealed to us right away. Here is the final for last year. I have two approaches here. One was the one I eventually wound up with, was penciling the landscapes, because if you pencil the landscapes, you can draw anything any way you want. And they're all based on photographs, like the photographs you see on the right-hand side. There are different word balloons for different dialects. The blue is the waiters, the elites. So that's the dialect that they speak in the light blue tone. So moving on. This is the second page in that same grouping. Let me do one little thing here. And I will bring you over to here. So here we see a scene where about 5 or 6 different tribes or clans are shown. Here's this one here is a hawk. That's an ibis. Those are osprey over here in the light blue. Those are weavers. Weavers make the huts for the bird people, the dwellings, and those are eagles back there and some more hawks. Let me just bring that to this and next. These are some of the sketches I did when I was at the Academy of Sciences. I worked graveyard shift, and as the chief engineer told me, your time is your own. You have 2 responsibilities here, and it's to make rounds and make sure all the tanks are nice and cold or nice and hot as they're designed to be. If the cold ones become hot, it's bad. If the hot ones become cold, it's bad. It's your responsibility to make sure that all the lights are running where they're supposed to run, because if you have a tank that has big and little fish in it and the lights go off, when you come back the next morning, only the big fish will be there. So that was my responsibility for as a temp engineer. So while I was there, I had access to the whole library So throughout the library, I went looking for the best pictures I could find and did pencil sketches of each one of them. You have a falcon. Over here is, let's see, it's a falcon. That's a buzzard or a hawk of some kind. That's a bald eagle, great horned owl, barn owl, great gray owl, amazing looking creatures, those. Osprey, California gull, that's Taraponga. I think it's a type of New Zealand gull or a tern. That's Magellanic penguin, which we had at the park, at the aquarium, and brown pelican. Here's some more. And each one of these was the basis for one of the different characters in the story. And this is what I did with them. These are front and side views. If I had a 3/4 view, I'd have everything ready to do animation, but I'm just sticking with graphic novels now. The top one is the Tengu in informal gear for like receiving guests and stuff. The bottom one is the vultures. They're responsible for recycling, for collecting garbage, for collecting guano, for recycling the dead. They had all kinds of stuff that nobody else wants anything to do with. So that's their bailiwick. Next up is a Tengu in formal wear. He'll dress the convocation dress like this. At the bottom is the osprey. They are, as I said earlier, the healers of this world. So they're pretty much in good terms with everybody. Let's see. The top is, well, they're both hawks. The top is Kezar. The lower one is Keats' mother. Keats is known as just a magnificent pilferer of our stuff. Like she'll go into a house, find a whole bunch of stuff, and find purposes for it. So that's her kind of a deal. Top is Skina. He's kind of like the strong, silent type. He's a trainer of Kezar. He lost that eye in a certain way that I'll go into in the story. At the bottom is the very vainglorious Kluik, the head of the Eagle clan, shown in a couple of moods. At the top, you have Hada, Kezar's tutor. At the bottom is the god Thoth, one of the 12 deities. That's a little copy of the earth floating over his staff. There's Frank, the mayor, and his nemesis, Hwark, of the Owl clan. Their goal is to topple the structure of the inside clans, to take it over for themselves for the new age that's coming up. At the top, you have a knucklehead. Plain and simple, the geese. They're the heron's muscle. You mess with the herons, you're going to get the goose. And not the sharpest tool in the shed. The geese are, like I say, the muscle, and they have a very easy path to being angry or alarmed. So they're good in that way. The golf courses in the southwest corner of the city are all occupied by the geese. Each one of the parks in the city has a certain clan belonging to it. On the bottom, we have the Magellanic penguins, smugglers without compare. They go between the inside and outside clans, selling them fish and getting cool stuff back from them. These are concept drawings. Now, if I want to understand what something's going to look like as it's penciled in the story, this is how I go about it. Just free flow, whatever thing you're trying to think of portraying, this is the approach that I use. So before I do any kind of a comic at all, I do this approach. So I want to know what the things look like. At the bottom left is a shoebill, one of the scariest looking birds around. These guys are the jailers of the world. They're the people you call up if like people get out of hand. These guys will throw them in a jail. The Jabiru stork, also the same kind of bailiwick. Let's see, that's the band shell on the upper left-hand corner. Here's the Tengu losing it. He grows to about 60 feet in height. Everybody freaks out. They go running away. The vulture's doing his craft down there, ducking the Tengu. So this is right before the Tengu quits. He's had it. One of the eagle Skina has lost his arm, and the hawks put him away in their cellar while he recuperates, next to a thing called a scroll rack. Every household has a scroll rack, and it's basically like a library. So they keep all their stuff. Here's a typical hawk hut, and it has things like the mirror that's above her. That's actually a mirror of mine that she would have gone into my house to pick up. There's a dartboard there that they don't know what the hell that is. They think it's the Eye of Horus. Ringing the top of the hut are skulls of the creatures they've brought down. The hawks are responsible for killing small prey. The eels are responsible for killing megafauna, the big prey. That's several of their killing implements. On the right-hand side and on the left-hand side is a bunch of food. And over here, food. That's Keats, that's Us, that's his dad. That's Kezar. And there's the two eagles. And she's saying, the eagles have changed. I don't know what it is about them, but they are mean now. And here we see Kezar trying to return a scroll to the Tengu, and the Tengu ain't having it. So the Tengu scoops him up with that crook of his, takes him up about 200 feet, and because these guys don't have any wings, he's going to give him a gravity test. And he's just about to drop him when Kezar drops the scroll out of his little quiver there. And the hut looks on. The hut can see all this stuff happening. So the scroll falls out. Tengu spots it, grabs it, and rescues Kezar at the same time. They come down to Earth, and the Tengu tells Kezar, you're going to be the new steward. And that's the... on the left-hand side, it describes the powerless state of the clans fighting each other while the five fingers, because the bird people only have four fingers, the five-fingered ghosts are going to take over this world of ours. And on the right-hand side, you see the 12 gods and their symbols or their visages. And he goes, man, you're going to be answering to all these guys, man. You're going to come into quite a job. You're going to hate this job. But it's your job, and I got to train you for it. And that's where the next book takes off. Here are thumbnails. The first iteration is on the left. These are just tiny little pictures that show you what each page is going to look like in the macro. Not giving much rendering detail, but what I found out, my second approach is on the right, which is you write down the dialogue surrounding each one of the boxes. Well, that's, as you can see, you run into a traffic jam. So the final iteration, and I developed all this stuff as I'm working on this book, 4 pages instead of 12 on a page, each one of which is surrounded by a bit of dialogue that they're going to be speaking to each other. Dialogue is it depends on the state of mind you're in, but it's one of the easiest and one of the hardest things to really bring across what you want the characters saying to each other, and also the easiest to overdo. So my approach to it, and this is the last sequence I'm going to show you here. 535 are doing pretty good. So on the left-hand side, you see half-size roughs. And so what they're about 5.5 by 8.5 inches. And they contain everything I want to put in the page in sequence with the dialogue in boxes. On the right-hand side, you see I got away from the boxes because I just don't like boxes over my pictures. And I used what's called an Ames guide to draw out the dialogue or write out the dialogue on a separate piece of paper, and then I drafted it in Photoshop. And so that's the first page. Basically, the eagles are going, can you believe what's going on here? We got the doves. They're getting all badass, and they're going to take on the falcons. Come on. Okay, well, I was saying, should we stop this? And he goes, what? Why? It's the most action we've seen in a year, So the blackbirds are there coaching them on. The doves show off their limited martial arts skills, basically consists of jumping up and down, and they're getting ready for the fight. They're there to kill them. And so this is at a place called the Polo Ground. Now, the Polo Ground or Polo Field is a place in the western Golden Gate Park that they had was it the Love Inn or the Bee Inn? I forget, but in 1967, this huge place, I mean, it's gigantic. It's like a racetrack. It was chosen by the people running this particular world as an open-air prison. And this is where they stuck the falcons. Well, the falcons are very, very industrious people. So they make this bunker that you can only see the top part of it. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But this is just recounting what they did to the pigeons the year previous. And over here it shows the basically the waiters who are the elites in this world, the herons and the ibis, like summoning them all. All the falcons are summoned magically to like come to the polo ground. This is where you're going to be living until we see fit to let you go. A force field is put up that will just basically disintegrate them if they try to go through it. That's why there were 7, but now there are 6. So they found out the hard way. Over here is where the owls step in. The owls, this is all in flashbacks from the dove's point of view. And the owls have trained the doves and through the blackbirds in ways martial. The blackbirds are trippy people. They get the run of the entire enclave, which is what I call San Francisco in this particular world, because it's an enclave for the deities. And so with this particular place, this was also, like I mentioned it earlier, in Glen Canyon. And so they're getting ready. They're gonna get ready to fight. And here are the Falcons, and they got serious skills. So what this little sequence is designed to show is the Falcons just practicing with their close range weapons. As far as the doves know, they're just using short range. However, when the doves close, they drop the short range weapons and pick up spears with slings. And in Native American, they call them atlatl, and they are a sling that you use to stretch out the range of a spear ridiculously. So they have 6 spears, and there are 6 enemies, so they all train up. And this is the battle. Death to the Falcons. Loose! And so they all let their spears go, and 5 out of 6 hit them. We're going to gloss over the battle. I'm not going to show you the battle scene because it is kind of grisly. There are meat cleavers involved. And after the battle, Falcons emerge triumphant, like everybody figured, like the eagle says, is mismatch. So they they razz the blackbirds. They tell them, hey man, maybe next time teach them how to throw the spears. And the final page is up your cloaca, eagles. So they basically they say what they really came there to do, which was to watch how the Falcons fight and also how effective those spears are. And so this sets them off into the next book's adventure. This is the first half of the first book is coming to a close here. Down below is a Taipei pavilion on Stowe Lake, which I found out on my own is a perfect place to watch the rising moon. It's on the east end of the island over the water. So this is where the waiters hang out, the elites. And basically, she's just trying to figure out, she doesn't think about the tragedy of the doves all getting wiped out or anything. She's thinking about how do we respond to this outrage? It's a power play. Anyway, that's the first half of the book. And here is the back cover of my book with all the details pursuant thereto. Anyway, that's my lecture, and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to have you, good people, I'm going to stop the video and allow you just this once to unmute yourselves. And there it is. Thank you. Unmute. So yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thanks, Bruce. That was great.
There you are.
That was amazing.
I survived.
Drawings are beautiful.
You know how many, if you knew how many things I had to go through before I set this thing up. I have people moving in next door. I thought it was going to happen today. I was scared the whole night before, waiting for them to like start unloading heavy furniture. But it didn't happen.
First like this.
Yeah.
People throws his weapon into the woods. But I won't be here forever.
Can't you stay a bit longer? Oh, please.
Nope.
And
I'm only staying this long. 5 minutes. 5 minutes of questions and answers, if you have any. Questions, answers?
Yes.
My shower time.
Can I say something, Bruce?
Sure, I think somebody needs to mute themselves, though.
Yes.
When somebody wants
You can do
Trina.
that, Bruce, if you click on Trina's iPad. Or from the participants. I don't think I can do that for you.
No offense, Trina.
Okay. Bruce,
Hey.
you began when you spoke, and I couldn't tell if you were being just casual with this group or when you give this presentation, you said, I suppose I'm going to get into trouble for telling this particular story because only people from that particular tribe are supposed to tell the story. So I have huge opposition to that attitude about subject matter of the world. And I wonder if you in fact do indeed think that you shouldn't be telling the story, then I think you need to make it be part of what you say, why you are. But it doesn't make sense to me. Like the world is full of stories, and whoever made up that only some people can tell any story just as artists, I just don't get it. So I know that you were saying it, and I don't know how serious you were. There's an artist, a writer named Lewis Hyde, who wrote The Gift. He wrote a book about Trickster. He's a brilliant writer, and he has a book called Common as Air, which is in fact about information, who owns information, that you might be interested in looking at. But I guess I'm partly asking if you were serious about that. And
well, I've seen remarks. I mean, I've seen people go, hey, man, you're appropriating our culture. You're not allowed to do that. The Raven clan of the Tlingit, and also the, I'm sure I'm saying this wrong, but Kwakwakawak. It used to be called Kwakyutl. I kind of like that version better, but it's their call. There is a tradition that the only people that are allowed to tell the story about a particular totem are the people of that clan. And I saw people get called on it and saying, hey, man, like you're appropriating our culture. Well, you could say the same thing about Phoenix or about Thoth or about Horus, but it's not being done with any kind of malice on my part. It's just like Raven is a really important part of the story. And so I have to at least offer that, well, it's not really a disclaimer, but it is a kind of a way to me to come to terms with that. I mean, I can't take the character out of the story. I mean, and have it still be the same story that I want to tell. Same thing goes for Thunderbird. Those are both proprietary North American, Northwestern tribe creatures. But the thing is, if you repurpose it for your story, Neil Gaiman, case in point, Neil Gaiman has done a lot of, I mean, what some people, if they really wanted to put it that way, we're going to do cultural appropriation. You could say the same thing for his work, but, it's kind of a difficult call to make, but I figured I should just, put that out there. I don't want to be insensitive in this stuff. And it means a lot to a lot of people. Anyway, but like I say, it's supposed to be a global kind of a world myth story because every culture has some sort of a bird god. We got Donald Duck, for God's sake. Okay, Daffy Duck. Pick your duck. It's kind of like it's when you anthropomorphize, you run into certain situations that, make it look comic-y. It's one of the major things that graphic novels and comics do, is they take an animal or something, like when we were kids, we kind of like, this is also like an approach that a lot of animals use, is that they don't make species differentiations. They can see that you're alive, so they impart to you, the individual, whatever it is that they impart to you. And they don't do it as, all the Native American myths that I've come across have animal creatures in them. And no reason to throw them out, no reason to eliminate them from your storyline just because they're not human. I had people tell me, up and down, and said, look, man, nobody's going to really relate to this stuff. These are bird people. They're cartoons, for God's sake. I said, look, if they're based on human beings, they can have commonality with human beings. Let me do one little thing. I want to check the chat and see what I can find. Lewis Hyde. Yes, I will check that out. Please unmute me. Please unmute me. Let me go. Raven steals the light. Yes. Yeah, the great North American Indian thing. Okay, cool. Very cool. All right. Okay, well, we got through it a lot quicker than I thought we would. I have time until, oh, geez. Got a half an hour left. I got till 6:15. Anyway, anybody got any more questions or stuff you want to talk about?
I'm curious how you did the drawings. Are they analog drawings just by hand, or did you do it in an app, digital app?
The ones that you saw that were the
Okay.
finals for the story were Photoshop. In other words, to get that clean line, I don't trust my hand to do any kind of inking. That one picture that you saw of the cranes, like doing their hullabaloo over at Crazy Field, that was ink. And that was to fulfill an assignment. And there's a really amazing teacher. Her name's Anderson. Her last name is Anderson. But she teaches Justine Mara Anderson. That's it. She teaches inking. And I have the course. I've paid for the course. I haven't taken it yet. I kind of stopped her. She said, okay, download this picture and then ink it. And it was like, so I didn't quite go that way. But I'm getting there. Basically, I'm doing a lot of Photoshop and drafting it into InDesign for a layout program. But yeah, for now, I'm just working with ebony pencils, these wonderful, these things. Okay, here's one. I'll put this up for you to see. Prismacolor Ebony. Prismacolor Ebony. These things are fickle. Once you sharpen them, you stand a 50% chance of having the pencil point crack. And then you get sharpened down a little bit, that pencil point cracks too. And so you go fling, but it's the luck of the draw. You don't know which one of these things have been dropped or whatever, but they are not consistent at all. Anyway, but they're fun to use because I use them on Bristol board, which can really take a licking when you got to erase stuff. But I like the modeling. I mean, it's pure graphite and it gets me hacking. I mean, I do so much of this drawing, right? This dust comes up and gets my nose, but hazards of the occupation, I suppose. Anyway.
Thank you.
I have a question about this is Maria. I was in I was in the graphic novel class when you were in it.
Yes.
Followed what you've been up to. I'm just kind of curious about your story. Like that, what you just showed us today was kind of all the characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the book.
Not all of them, but a good number of them.
And then
characters.
Full stories.
Mm-hmm.
How many of them? How far are you going? How far have you gone with the stories? Like
Well, the ones I'm working on now, I've plotted out 20 books, and I'm halfway through the very first of those 20. And right now, I'm plotting the fourth book. I guess it would be chapter D, where I bring in the humans. And because of that, it's a lot more complex. So I spent about the last week and a half trying to figure out what these characters are going to be doing. The tall heads and the long necks, the mutants and the fighters, all the mutants. I have to figure out a backstory for each one of them. The other thing that complicates the factor is when I talk about Earth 1 and Earth 2. Earth 2 is going to be the world of the bird people and the gods. Earth 1 is going to be what stands for this dystopian version of this world. You ever watch It's a Wonderful Life?
yeah.
With It's a Wonderful Life? Okay, there was a point there where George Willoughby is like in his extremity. And Clarence decides to show him what life would have been like in his town if he had never existed.
Okay.
In, Pottersville. This is basically the Pottersville version of this world. There's been a nuke that came out, like I said, that took out Chicago. This group, the Corpus, has figured out how to de-radiate areas, but what they leave behind, even though it's not toxic anymore, is just glass. So they did that with Zaporizhia, they did it with Chernobyl, and they did it with Fukushima. But they're still considered heroes because they de-radiated it. Okay, so but that's a whole nother aspect of this book that I'm working on right now. So each one of these books is a 24, and there are 20 of them, they're 24 pages each.
Oh, okay. So it's 24 pages is kind of manageable, isn't it? That
What's
you
that?
could, it's manageable. You know, you could finish 24 pages,
Oh yeah,
24 books,
well, 20 books.
20 books, that's like a lot.
Yeah, well, this thing basically gave me the jumping off point for that. This takes place like a year before the events of the 20 books that I'm doing now. And it's funny because this time of year, every year, I go out to the band shell or the concourse where the main action of the thing takes place. And I take pictures that will be the same angle of where the characters are sitting. And because it's a 24-page book and not a 6-page book, like a 6-page story or 8-page story that I submitted to SAW, to the Sequential Arts Workshop, I have the opportunity to dilate the story a little bit at each one of these stages. Well, each one of the stages was chosen because it portrays a sequence of action that can be visually depicted. And the 15th story, which would be what, book O, is going to be like 64 pages. And it's the action that describes what happens the day of the actual last convocation, when the Tengu just loses it and quits. Now, this guy's been on the job for 100 years. These creatures have lifespans of maybe 30 to 40 years. So he's like 250 years old in our time. But he's about had it, and he's starting to lose it mentally. So he's, you know, they're kind of like with Biden, you know, they're calling his ability to do his job into question just because of the real fact that he's of advanced years. So there's a crisis of leadership in this world too.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of work ahead of you.
Oh my
But
God. I designed this to be my full-time job. So yeah, it's a full-time job.
they're gorgeous. And you seem to know a lot about the birds. And I love the places around San Francisco, how you put that in the story that makes it so vivid. So carry on.
I plan to. No, the thing about it is I wanted to do something in 2004 when I first came up with this idea, and I put it into action after coming back from New Zealand, the land of the birds. I wanted to do something that would honor, because I just got my BFA from the late lamented Art Institute, to do a story that would honor our family's history in San Francisco. We've been here since there's been a San Francisco. I am the last. There are 5 generations of us in San Francisco. And I wanted to do a story about place. And I started looking around at all the places I like to go to San Francisco. And some of them are, you know, I mean, they're kind of hard to get to, but they're undoubtedly something to derive value from visiting. And so what I did is I looked at the term parks and recreation. I said, why do they call it recreation? Well, you can recreate a park on your own terms every time you visit it. You know, that's for you. And because of there's been monetization and privatization of Golden Gate Park, I just said to myself, what would happen if somebody just bought the frickin' park, you know, to do with it whatever the hell they want? It'd be theirs. It'd be private. And so I looked at the DeYoung Museum getting turned into an office building. So the California Academy of Sciences get turned into a research facility for the corpus in my storyline. I mean, it hasn't turned into I mean, it actually is. DeYoung Museum is in part an office building, but it's also a museum. And for the bird people, these things are the most mysterious things out of everything that they've been exposed to as a result of our being in the world right next door to theirs. And so it gives them an opportunity to, you know, like for instance, the Poro mask, the African mask. You know, they can't figure out what the hell that's for, but they're pretty sure it means something to somebody. So it goes. Yeah. But like I say, I've been in the trades. I've been a stationary engineer for 40 years. I've been longing to do this project for a long time. And now I can do it. So I'm doing it. More questions?
Yeah, Bruce, I was interested. Earlier you said somebody said, who can relate to the birds? Who was that somebody?
Oh,
You were
who?
getting feedback?
How so?
Do you mean
I
when I questioned why he had said that he
No,
would get in trouble? No.
no,
Okay.
it didn't, not from what you said, Judith. No, you said that somebody said, well, people, why birds? People can't relate to birds. Who was that a publisher? Was that a producer? Who was giving you that feedback?
Oh no, it's like people. This one guy in particular was a playwright, and he said if you don't have humans in there, people are not going to be able to relate to it. I said, well, I don't know, man. I think I'll prove you wrong, and just kept on with the project.
Oh, so these were just peers.
Yeah, yeah. Birds taught, according to the New Guineans anyway, they taught us how to sing, how to dance, how to wear bright colors, how to court, how to do all kinds of things that we just take for granted, and how to raise our kids. Birds are an example of, what a good parent looks like, except for their brush turkey. I won't go into that. They just lay their eggs and walk off, but, you're on your own, kid, so.
But you also mentioned animation. Was that one of your visions to have this animated?
Absolutely. That's the other thing that drove me was I lost a lot of my friends to LA that I went to art school with. They had been working in an area of San Francisco we used to call Multimedia Gulch. And the dot-com bust of 2000 put paid to that. Everybody pretty much, went south to LA where the industry was already happening. We lost our animation industry. What I wanted to do was get a studio going that would employ people here in town, and oblige them to work with San Francisco because all the backgrounds are in San Francisco. I think there was a Pixar movie that was along those lines that a few years back that was, and it's something that I think it was between Japan and San Francisco. There was a back and forth between the two towns, and it used extensive backgrounds from both towns. Never got a chance to see it, but it's on my list. The funny thing is, I've been watching for about the last month now. There's a series called One Piece. And One Piece, the live action is based on an anime. And the animation was, it's 1,087 episodes. And I just got to like episode 90. Their little things are like about 20 minutes long each.
Yeah, and it's still going strong, y'all. Be careful. Be careful if you dip a toe in this thing. The guy is going to keep writing it until both his hands fall off. I don't know. It's still #1 in Shonen Jump week after week after week. Sorry, it's it's astonishing, and it's a great analogy for Bruce's mega epic. Yep.
It's brain candy. Well, I had one. Let's have another one. Yeah, I love the stuff. I mean, it's they got different characters coming up every week. And I illustrated a children's book called Fables for All Ages. It uses birds as the characters. I'll share some of the illustrations. Yes, do it.
I used Audubon's illustrations to get the birds to be accurate. And then I had them acting out. Someone else wrote the book, but it was an early, it was a job that I had.
Most did.
It was in 1995 or something like that.
I want to see that puppy. One thing I got brought to my attention when I was taking in 2009, I took a comprehensive Adobe class that taught Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, all state-of-the-art for free at City College.
Wow.
And one of the students there, he told me, oh, it's the Haggadah. I said, what? It's the Haggadah. What are you talking about? He says, well, there's a Hebrew book that depicts, the Egyptians get depicted as humans, but the Hebrews get depicted as bird people.
Actually, it's from the 14th century, and it's a Dutch Haggadah, it's pronounced, and it's
Haggadah.
It's the ritual book that's used for Passover, but the figures are human figures with bird masks, and it's known as the bird mask Haggadah.
Oh, okay.
You can find it easily on Wikipedia or, in the history.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I mean, every culture has a bird person of some kind or another. I mean, they're omnipresent. There are 300 billion of them. They're everywhere on Earth. And you could easily say that it's their planet and we're the arrivistes. We're the folks that just got here, They've been here for 130 million years, as I understand birds to be, and the previous forms go back even further. And they've seen it all. They're the dinosaurs plan B after the asteroid hit. They're basically dinosaurs. I love them. It's funny, in my neighborhood, there is a coffee shop called the Owl and the Monkey that is currently getting redone, and I don't know how many incarnations it's gone through, but this particular one had back in the day a finch cage in the back, and this thing was like 10 feet by 5 feet and filled with all different types of finches. You got to have a particular love of birds to be able to have something like that on your property. You're amazing. And go down to the zoo sometime. I mean, it's just any zoo in any major town is going to have a pretty good sized aviary. You know, you see birds from all over the world. When I was a kid, there was a book in our household called Birds of the World. And this thing was a looking book. It was like, you know, this big, about that thick. And it had illustrations of birds from all over the world. It was endlessly fascinating. Because when you think about the different types of birds, you know, you go from your, I don't know, pick a kiwi and compare that to a robin. You know, there's very little in common between the two of them. What do they have? Feathers, beaks. They lay eggs. They have certain things in commonality, but it's the feathers that really make them birds. Feathers are modified scales. And they's good eating. There's a scene that I have in the next book series that I have planned where there's an exchange program between this world and that world, or Earth 1 and Earth 2, where they get to come to Earth and see how we treat chickens. True conversation stopper right there. Hey, I want to go home, you know? Yeah. But anyway, so the first set of books is like everything that happens at the outset. Second book is between Earth 1 and Earth 2. And the third book is where the corpus decides to militarily take over Earth 2. Or take over the bird people, and they find out what's waiting for them. They have no idea. They can't see the deities. They can't see the gods. When they come to that other world, you know, bird people's big brothers start showing up, and it's ugly. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, gang. Well, unless there are any other questions, shall we call it?
Thank you so much, Bruce. This was great. Really
Thank you
enjoyed
so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks
Bruce.
very much.
Thanks, Bruce.
All right, you crazy kids. Okay, Bev. Yeah. Have a good night, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thanks, Bruce. Take care.
Take care, Mike.